My name doesn't matter anymore. At 82, people forget your name anyway. May just call you Grandma. But once, I was a little girl with bright eyes and dreams that felt bigger than the sky. I grew up in a small town, a place where everyone knew everyone, where girls learned early that their future was already written. My mother used to say, "Study is for boys, girls belong in the kitchen." I remember sitting by the window at school, watching birds fly freely, and wondering why they could go anywhere, but I couldn't. I loved books. I loved writing. I loved stories about brave women who traveled the world. But every time I spoke about my dreams, people laughed. Dreams don't cook dinner. Dreams don't raise children. Dreams don't make a husband happy. So slowly, I learned to be quiet. At 14, I stopped school, not because I wanted to, but because my family needed help. I washed clothes, I cleaned floors, I cooked for everyone. At night, when everyone slept, I secretly read books by candlelight. That was my rebellion. I dreamed of becoming a teacher, standing in front of a class, helping little girls believe in themselves. But in my world, girls didn't become teachers, they became wives. At 18, men started visiting my house. They came with gifts, with smiles, with their mothers. They didn't ask about my dreams. They asked if I could cook, if I was obedient, if I would listen. I felt like a product, not a person. One man said, "She's quiet, good." That sentence still hurts today, because quiet meant I didn't fight. I didn't question, I didn't resist, and that made me perfect. At 19, my parents chose my husband. They said, "He has a job, he is responsible, he will take care of you." Nobody asked me if I loved him. I remember sitting alone the night before my wedding, staring at my reflection. I whispered to myself, "Is this really my life?" But I was too afraid to say no, because good girls don't say no. The wedding day felt like a funeral. Everyone was happy, everyone smiled, except me. Inside, I was screaming, but my mouth stayed silent. And that was the first day I started disappearing. That night, I slept next to a man I barely knew, and I felt something die inside me. The girl with dreams was gone. I was 19 years old when I became a wife, not because I loved him, but because everyone said it was time. My husband was 10 years older, a serious man, quiet, hard-working. On paper, he was perfect, but in reality, we were strangers. The first morning after the wedding, I woke up early. My mother taught me a wife must wake up before her husband, so I did. I cooked breakfast, cleaned the house, served him tea. He didn't say thank you. He just ate and left for work. That became my life. Every day I waited for him to come home, waited for him to speak, waited for him to notice me. But he never asked how I felt, what I wanted, what I dreamed. Because in his world, a wife didn't need dreams, a wife needed duty. I tried to be cheerful, I smiled, I laughed at his jokes, I praised his work. But inside, I felt empty. At night, he touched me, not with love, with ownership. I lay still, staring at the ceiling, counting cracks. I told myself, this is marriage, this is what women do. But my body knew something was wrong.
I felt used, not loved. After 3 months, I got pregnant. Everyone was happy. My mother cried tears of joy. His family celebrated. But me, I was terrified because I knew once I became a mother, I would disappear even more. Pregnancy was hard, morning sickness, pain, fear, but nobody cared. They only said, "Be strong. Other women survive. Don't complain." So I stayed silent. When my first son was born, I felt love, real love, but I also felt trapped. Now I was a wife and a mother. There was no space left for me. My husband worked more. He came home tired, angry sometimes. If dinner was late, he scolded me. If the baby cried, he blamed me. "You don't know how to calm him. You're useless." Each word cut deeper, but I swallowed it because a good wife doesn't answer back. Years passed. I had 3 children back to back. No rest, no dreams, no life. Just cooking, cleaning, feeding, serving. I watched my reflection fade. My hair turned grey early. My back hurt. My eyes lost light. Once I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Who was this woman? Where was the girl who loved books, who dreamed of teaching? She was gone. One day, my childhood friend visited. She went to university. She became a teacher. She told me about her students, her travels, her life. I smiled, but inside I felt something break. That night, I cried quietly in bed. Not because I hated my family, but because I hated what I had become, a shadow. I wanted to talk to my husband, to tell him I felt lonely. So I tried. One evening I said, "I feel tired. I feel invisible." He laughed. "You have food, children, a house. What more do you want?" I realized something that night. In his eyes, I was ungrateful. So I stopped talking. I learned to suffer silently, because silence was safer than truth. Years turned into decades. My children grew. They left home. And suddenly, it was just me and him, 2 strangers in one house. We had nothing to say. We ate in silence, watched TV, slept. Sometimes I sat by the window and imagined a different life. What if I said no? What if I ran away? What if I chose myself? But then reality returned. I was too old, too tired, too afraid. So I stayed, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know how to leave. I thought becoming a mother would save me, but I didn't know it would make me disappear even more. Because in the next part, I will tell you what motherhood really cost me.
People say motherhood is beautiful, and it is, but nobody tells you how much of yourself you will lose. When my first son was born, I looked at his tiny hands and cried, not from pain, from love. I promised myself I would protect him no matter what, and I did. I stopped thinking about myself, my dreams, my needs. Everything became about him. When he cried, I forgot my hunger. When he was sick, I forgot my sleep. That was love. But slowly, it became my prison. I had my second child 2 years later, a daughter. She looked like me, same eyes, same smile. I held her and whispered, "Don't become like me." But deep inside, I knew she would, because I didn't know how to teach her to be brave. I only knew how to teach her to serve, cook, clean, be quiet.
the same things my mother taught me. The cycle continued. My days became exactly the same. Wake up, cook, feed children, clean, wash clothes, sleep. No rest, no weekend, no holiday. Just survival. Sometimes I forgot what day it was, Monday or Sunday. It didn't matter. Life had no color. My husband never helped. He said, "This is a woman's job." So I did everything. When I asked for help, he said, "Other women manage, why can't you?" So I felt weak. I felt like a failure. At night, when everyone slept, I sat alone in the kitchen. I stared at my hands. They were rough, cracked, old. I was only in my 30s, but I looked 50. I didn't recognize myself anymore. Once, my son asked, "Mom, what do you like?" I froze. I didn't know the answer. I knew what my husband liked, what my children liked, but me? I had no idea, because I had forgotten who I was. That night, I cried quietly, not because of them, but because I had disappeared. Years passed. My children grew. School, friends, dreams. They talked about what they wanted to be: doctor, engineer, artist. I smiled. I encouraged them. But inside, I felt jealousy. Not bad jealousy, sad jealousy, because they had choices. I didn't. Sometimes my daughter complained, "Mom, I'm tired. Mom, I don't want to do this." I almost said, "Be grateful," but I stopped because I remembered how people said that to me. So I hugged her instead, and for a moment I felt strong. But then reality returned. Bills, chores, responsibilities. I was tired all the time. My body hurt, my back, my knees, but I kept going because mothers don't stop. One day, I fainted in the kitchen. I woke up in the hospital. The doctor said, "You are exhausted." My husband said, "Don't exaggerate." I realized then, even my pain was invisible. Nobody asked how long I suffered. They only asked when I could go home. So I did. Back to the same life, back to serving, back to silence. When my children left home, I thought, finally, I can live for myself. But I was wrong, because I didn't know how. I had spent so many years being a mother, I forgot how to be a woman. I didn't know what clothes I liked, what food I enjoyed, what dreams I wanted. I felt empty, a shell. One evening, I sat alone in the living room. No children, no noise, just silence. And suddenly, I was scared. Not of being alone, but of realizing I had nothing inside me. No passion, no desire, no purpose. I whispered, "Who am I?" But nobody answered. That night, I understood something painful. I gave my children everything, but I gave myself nothing. And now, there was nothing left. I thought I was strong, but strength slowly became my cage. In the next part, I will tell you about the wounds nobody saw, the emotional violence, the words that broke me quietly.
People think violence means bruises, broken bones, blood. But they don't know the deepest wounds don't bleed. They stay inside you, quiet, invisible. My husband never hit me, so people said, "You are lucky." But every day he killed me with words, small words, sharp words. "You're stupid. You can't do anything right. Why are you so slow? My mother did better than you." At first I laughed. I thought he was joking. But when jokes come every day, they stop being jokes. They become truth. I started believing him. Maybe I am stupid. Maybe I am useless. I stopped trying, because what's the point if you always fail? When guests came, he joked about me. "She burns food. She talks too much. She's not smart." People laughed. I smiled too, but inside I felt naked, humiliated. I wanted to scream, "Stop!" but I didn't, because good wives don't embarrass their husbands. So I swallowed my pain. One day I bought a dress. It was simple, blue, nothing special, but I felt pretty. When I showed him, he looked at me and said, "You look old. Why waste money?" I returned the dress, and I never bought anything for myself again, because I felt guilty for wanting to feel beautiful. When I cooked, he criticized. Too salty, too cold. My mother cooked better. I stopped enjoying cooking. It became a battlefield. I cooked with fear. When he came home, my heart raced. What mood is he in today? If he was angry at work, I became his target. He didn't hit me, but his eyes were cold. His silence was worse than shouting. He ignored me for days, didn't answer, didn't look. I felt like I didn't exist. I begged for attention. What did I do wrong? He said, "Figure it out." So I analyzed every word, every movement, trying to guess his mind, trying to be perfect. But perfection never came, because the goal kept moving. If I was quiet, he said I was boring. If I talked, he said I was annoying. If I cried, he said I was weak. If I stayed strong, he said I was cold. I could never win. Slowly, I lost my voice. I stopped expressing feelings, because every feeling was wrong. When my father died, I cried. He said crying won't bring him back, so I cried alone. When I was sick, he said, "Don't exaggerate," so I hid my pain. When I felt lonely, he said, "You have a family. What more do you want?" So I stayed silent. One night, I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't see a woman. I saw a scared child, always careful, always apologizing. I whispered, "I'm sorry," but I didn't know what for, because I apologized for existing. That's what emotional violence does. It makes you feel like a burden, like you don't deserve kindness, like you are lucky to be tolerated. Years passed. I became very good at reading his face, the wrinkle on his forehead, the way he closed the door. I knew when to talk, when to stay silent. My life became a strategy game, survival. One wrong move and punishment came. Not fists, but words, sharp, cold, precise. Once, my daughter asked, "Mom, why don't you leave?" I froze, because I didn't know how to answer. Leave? Where would I go? I had no job, no money, no confidence. I was trapped without chains. I told her, "It's complicated." But the truth was, I was afraid to be alone, afraid to fail, afraid to be judged, afraid to choose myself. So I stayed, and every year a piece of me died, not loudly, quietly.
People ask me, why didn't you leave? They think the answer is simple, but love is never simple, even painful love. My husband was not a monster. That's the hardest part. If he were cruel all the time, maybe I would have left. But sometimes he was kind. On rare mornings, he brought me tea, didn't say anything, just placed it quietly. I stared at that cup like it was a miracle. See, he cares. That's what I told myself. Once a year, on my birthday, he bought me flowers, cheap flowers from the street, but I kept them for days, even when they dried, because they meant hope. Hope that he loved me, just in his own way. I lived on crumbs of kindness. One good word could erase 10 bad ones. That's how I survived. I remember one night, it was raining hard. The power went out. The house was dark. We sat together in silence. Suddenly, he said, "You work hard." My heart stopped. In 40 years of marriage, he never said that. I wanted to cry. I wanted to hug him, but I didn't, because I didn't know how to accept love. I just nodded. That sentence kept me alive for years. That's how broken I was. I accepted the smallest kindness like treasure. People think abusive men are evil, but many are just damaged. My husband grew up with a violent father. He learned that control meant power. He didn't know how to love gently, so he loved the only way he knew, with authority, with distance, with fear. That doesn't excuse him, but it explains. Sometimes I looked at him sleeping, his face relaxed, peaceful. I wondered, who hurt you? I felt sorry for him. That's when I hated myself, because I felt compassion for someone who broke me. But I also remember good moments. When our children were born, he smiled proudly. When my son graduated, he cried quietly. When my daughter left home, he sat alone in her room. He wasn't heartless, just emotionally blind. I loved him once. At the beginning, I really did. He was strong, responsible. I thought he would protect me, but protection turned into control, and control turned into prison. Love became fear. Fear became habit. Habit became life. One day, I asked him, "Do you love me?" He looked confused. "Why do you ask?" I said, "I just want to know." He sighed. "After all these years, isn't it obvious?" No, it wasn't, because love shouldn't hurt this much. That night, I realized something. We stayed together not because of love, but because of history. Too many years, too many memories. Leaving would mean everything was wasted. So we stayed. Two tired people holding a dead marriage. Not fighting, not loving, just existing. Sometimes we laughed, not because we were happy, but because silence was awkward. We became roommates, strangers with shared past. People saw us as a perfect couple, married 40 years, such an example. I smiled, but inside I screamed. If they only knew, if they only felt what I felt. One evening, he got sick, serious, hospital, machines, fear. I sat beside him. I held his hand.
I felt something strange. Not love, not hate, just emptiness. I asked myself, do I want him to live? And the answer scared me. I didn't know, because his death meant freedom, but also loneliness. I felt guilty. What kind of wife thinks this way? I hated myself for even thinking it. He survived. Life continued. But something inside me changed. I stopped waiting for him to change. I stopped hoping, because hope was killing me. I accepted this was my life, and that acceptance was the saddest part. I thought he would live forever, but then one morning, he didn't wake up. In the next part, I will tell you about the day everything ended. I always thought he would die before me, not because he was older, but because he was stronger. That morning, everything felt normal. I woke up early, as always. I cooked breakfast, as always. I called his name. No answer. I walked to the bedroom. He was lying there, still, too still. At first, I thought he was sleeping. I touched his shoulder, cold. My heart stopped. I shook him. Wake up! Wake up! Nothing. In that moment, my mind went blank. No tears, no screams, just silence. I called my son. My voice was strange, calm. Your father, he's not waking up. Minutes felt like hours. Ambulance, doctors, lights. They tried, but I already knew. When they said he's gone, I didn't cry. People think you collapse when your husband dies, but I didn't. I felt empty, like a balloon with no air. I sat there, looking at his body. This man I spent 40 years with. This man who hurt me, who controlled me, who sometimes loved me, was gone, just like that. No goodbye, no apology, no closure. I waited for sadness. It didn't come. Instead, I felt something else, relief, and that terrified me, because relief meant freedom, freedom from fear, from walking on eggshells, from waiting for his moods. I hated myself. What kind of wife feels relieved when her husband dies? I cried that night, not because I missed him, but because I felt guilty. At the funeral, people hugged me. You were such a good wife. You devoted your life to him. I nodded, but inside, I wanted to scream. You don't know what I survived. They praised me for my sacrifice, but nobody asked what it cost me. I stood there, smiling, thanking people, performing grief. That night, after everyone left, I went home. The house felt different, quieter. I walked into the bedroom. His clothes were still there, his shoes, his watch. I touched his jacket, and suddenly I cried hard because I realized something. He was the center of my life, even when he hurt me, and now he was gone. I didn't know who I was without him. For the first time, I was alone, really alone. Days passed, people stopped visiting, life returned to normal, but my normal was empty. I woke up and nobody scolded me. Nobody criticized my cooking. Nobody ignored me. Silence, and silence felt strange. Sometimes I caught myself waiting for his footsteps, waiting for his cough. Then I remembered, he's gone. That realization hit me every day like a wave. Sometimes I missed him, not him, but the routine, the habit. We don't miss people. We miss the life we built around them. One evening, I sat alone at dinner, 2 plates. I laughed at myself. I still cooked for two. I realized how deeply he was inside me, even after death. I started going out, small walks. The sun felt warmer. The world looked different. For the first time, I felt light. No fear, no tension, just air. And then guilt came again. How dare you feel free? How dare you smile? I punished myself. I stayed home. I cried. I told myself, you are selfish. But deep inside, I knew this freedom was my second chance. But I didn't know how to use it because I spent my whole life serving someone else. Now there was nobody to serve, and that scared me. One night, I talked to his photo. Why didn't you love me better? Why didn't I leave? Why did we waste so many years? But photos don't answer. I never got closure, just silence. Time passed, weeks, months. People said, you should move on. Move on after 40 years. How do you move on from a life? I learned slowly how to go shopping alone, how to eat alone, how to sleep alone. And slowly, I started to like it. Not him dying, but me being free. That truth still makes me cry. They think old age is lonely, but they don't know. Loneliness can be freedom.
People are afraid of being alone. They think loneliness is punishment. But after a lifetime of noise, silence became my friend. When my husband died, the house felt too big. Rooms I never entered, chairs no one sat on, walls that remembered every argument. At first, silence scared me. I turned on the TV just to hear voices, not to watch, just to feel someone was there. But slowly, I started to enjoy quiet. I woke up when I wanted, not when I had to. I cooked only if I was hungry, not because it was time. I wore clothes for comfort, not approval. Small freedoms, things young people don't notice, but to me, they were miracles. I started walking every morning, just me, my shadow, the sky. I looked at flowers I never saw before because my eyes were always busy watching someone else. Now, I watched myself. One day, I sat on a park bench. A young couple passed by. They were laughing, holding hands. I smiled, but I also felt sad because love should be like that. Light, easy, safe, not heavy, not fearful, not painful. I whispered, I deserved that too, but I was too late. People say better late than never, but some things hurt when they come late. I started talking to myself out loud because nobody told me to be quiet anymore. I told myself jokes, I argued, I laughed. I was learning how to be human again. My children visited sometimes. They were busy, work, life. I didn't blame them because I taught them to live. But when they left, the house became quiet again, and I learned how to sit with that quiet, not fight it, not escape it, just be. One night, I lit a candle. I looked at my hands, wrinkled, spotted, weak. But these hands raised children, cooked thousands of meals, wiped tears. They deserved respect. For the first time, I respected myself. I whispered, thank you for surviving, for staying alive, for not giving up, even when I wanted to disappear. Loneliness taught me something powerful. You meet yourself in silence. You hear thoughts you buried, dreams you killed, pain you ignored, and slowly you heal. Not completely, but enough. I started writing, not for anyone, just for me. Letters to my younger self. I'm sorry.
I should have protected you. You were brave. I cried writing them, but tears felt clean, not heavy. I forgave myself for staying, for being afraid, for choosing safety over freedom. I did what I could with what I knew. That's all any of us can do. Sometimes I still miss him, not the man, but the idea of companionship, someone to share silence with. But then I remember I was lonely even when he was alive, so this loneliness is honest, pure, no pretending, no walking on eggshells, just me, and that is peaceful. One afternoon, a neighbor asked, "Are you lonely?" I thought, then I answered, "Sometimes, but I'm finally free." She looked confused because people think freedom is loud, parties, travel, adventure, but my freedom is quiet. A cup of tea in the morning, sunlight on the floor, my own thoughts, no fear, no judgment, no permission needed. At 82, I learned something late. Being alone is not empty, it's full of you. When you are alone, you start thinking about what you never did. In the next part, I will tell you about my biggest regrets and the dreams I buried. At this age, memories visit you more than people do. Every night when the house is quiet, my past comes back. Not the good parts, the moments I said no to myself. I regret not studying. I wanted to be a teacher, to stand in front of a class, to change lives. But I chose safety over dreams. And now, when I see young girls in school uniforms, my heart aches because I see the girl I used to be, still hopeful, still brave. I regret not traveling. I wanted to see the ocean, the mountains, different countries, but I waited. I'll go when the kids grow. I'll go when we have money. I'll go when there's time. Time never came. Now my legs are weak. My body is tired. The world stayed big. I stayed small. I regret staying silent. So many times I wanted to speak. When he hurt me, when he humiliated me, when he ignored me. But I smiled because I was afraid of conflict. I chose peace over truth, but peace without truth is just slow death. I regret not leaving, not because it was easy, but because I deserved better. I stayed because I was scared of gossip, of poverty, of being alone. I forgot to be scared of wasting my life. That was my biggest mistake. I regret teaching my daughter to be quiet. I wanted to protect her, but I taught her to tolerate pain. Now she's strong. She speaks up. I'm proud. But I wonder, would she be stronger if I was braver earlier? I regret not loving myself. I hated my body, my face, my wrinkles. I thought I wasn't enough. Now I look at old photos. I was beautiful. Not model beautiful, real beautiful. But I didn't see it because I didn't feel worthy. I regret waiting for permission from my husband, from my parents, from society. I thought I needed approval to live, but life doesn't need permission. It needs courage. I regret not saying I'm proud of myself. Not once. I waited for others to say it. They never did. So I lived thinking I was nothing. I regret not choosing joy. I thought joy was selfish, so I chose duty. But duty without joy is just slavery. I regret not laughing more, not dancing, not singing. I was always serious, afraid people would judge me.
Now I don't care, but my body can't dance anymore. That hurts. I regret not telling my story. I thought nobody cared, but now I know someone out there needs to hear it. Someone young, someone scared, someone like me once. The biggest regret? I lived for everyone and forgot to live for myself. That sentence burns because it's true. If I could go back just one day, I would look at that 19-year-old girl in the mirror and I would say, choose yourself. Be brave. You are not selfish. You are human. But time doesn't go back, so I say it to you instead. Don't wait. Don't think you have forever, because one day you will wake up old and your dreams will be too tired to stand. Regret teaches you, but very late. In the next part, I will talk directly to you, woman to woman, heart to heart.
Everything you seek is already
Old
within.
woman, if you are young and listening to me now, please don't ignore this old voice. I know you think you have time. I did too. I thought, I'll do it later, when life is calmer, when things are perfect. Life never becomes perfect. There will always be problems, bills, family, fear. If you wait for the right moment, you will wait forever. Choose yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a brave way. Your dreams matter, even if they are small, even if nobody understands them, especially if nobody understands them, because dreams are personal. Don't marry just because people pressure you. Marriage should be a choice, not an escape, not a duty. If you feel scared, listen to that fear. Fear is not weakness, it's your intuition protecting you. Love should feel safe, not painful, not confusing, not heavy. If someone makes you feel small, they don't love you. They control you. Control is not love. Silence is not strength. Speaking up is strength. Crying is strength. Leaving is strength. You are not weak for choosing peace. Don't lose yourself in motherhood. Love your children, protect them, but don't disappear. Let them see a woman who respects herself, because daughters learn how to live from their mothers. Teach them courage, not sacrifice. Teach them boundaries, not endurance. Teach them self-love, not self-neglect. Don't stay where you are not respected. Loneliness is better than a crowded prison. Trust me, I lived in a house full of people and still felt alone. Don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You are not too loud, too emotional, too much. You are human. You deserve a life that feels alive. Don't be afraid of judgment. People will judge no matter what you do. So choose the life you want to defend. One day you will be old like me, sitting alone, and you will ask yourself, did I live or did I survive? There is a difference. Living has joy, fear, mistakes, love. Surviving is just breathing. Please live, travel, study, fall in love, make mistakes, leave, start again. It's okay to restart. It's better than staying in a life that kills you slowly. Don't wait until your body is tired, until your hair is gray, until your knees hurt, because by then, courage feels heavier.
I'm not telling you to be perfect. I'm telling you to be honest with yourself. If something hurts, listen. If something feels wrong, trust it. Your heart is wiser than society. I spent my life being a good woman, but now I know being a good woman should never mean being invisible. Promise me something. Promise me you will choose yourself, not once, every day, even when it's hard, even when you are scared, because fear passes, regret doesn't. I don't have much time left, but before I go, there is one last thing I want to leave you, my final message. I don't know how much time I have left. At 82, every morning feels like a gift. I wake up and thank God, not because my life was easy, but because I survived it. People think old age is sad, but you know what's sadder? Living your whole life and never being yourself. If I could leave one thing behind, not money, not a house, not jewelry, just words, because words last longer. Here is my truth. You don't owe your life to anyone. Not your parents, not your husband, not your children, not society. You owe it to yourself, to the girl you once were, the one with bright eyes and big dreams. Don't betray her. I betrayed mine. Every day. I told her later, be patient, endure. Endure killed her. Don't let endurance be your identity. Life is not a punishment, it's an experience, and you deserve to feel it fully. Love should not hurt. Family should not silence you. Marriage should not cage you. If something costs you your soul, it's too expensive. I spent my life paying with my soul, and now I am broke. But you don't have to be. Please, if you are unhappy, don't wait 40 years. Leave, change, start over. It's never too late, but earlier is better. I know fear. Fear of being alone, fear of failing, fear of judgment. But I promise you, fear hurts less than regret. Regret stays, fear passes. One day, you will sit in a quiet room like me, and you will remember this voice. Not because I am special, but because I was you, just older. If you are listening to this, my life is not wasted because it reached you. That makes every tear worth it. I forgive myself now for staying, for being afraid, for choosing safety. I did the best I could with what I knew, and that's enough. I am at peace, not because I lived perfectly, but because I finally told the truth. If my story touched you, don't just cry. Do something. Call someone. Leave something toxic. Start that dream. Choose yourself today, not tomorrow, today, because tomorrow is a promise nobody can keep. I am 82 years old. This is my confession. Before it's too late, live. Promise me, you won't wait as long as I did. If this story feels like your life, you are not alone. Leave a comment. Someone here needs to hear your voice.